Jenalee.
Yeah,
right.
Same.
All right. Well, hey, listen, welcome everybody. I'm really excited to be here this morning with Jenalee Erb, who runs the Jenalee Erb team with Howard Hanna from Pittsford, New York, which is an awesome place. And Jenalee runs a great team. My name is Charles Flynn, and I'm a realtor here in Genesee County, and I'm the manager of the Geneseo office, also for howardhanna.com. Well, good morning, Jenalee. How you doing?
Good morning. I'm great. It's a
Awesome.
good, sunny, beautiful morning today. So
I know, right? I feel like we got to get out there and soak up, get our vitamin K rolling?
vitamin D, yeah.
Vitamin D. Okay. Yeah, get it
Broke
going.
out the open-toed shoes today. So nice.
Nice. Let me bring my microphone over here better. Awesome. So, so Jenalee and I, we talk a lot. And we were having these conversations in the background, and I thought, this is the kind of thing that like sellers want to hear about working with realtors, about should I do this or should I do that? Like all these conversations that realtors have between each other would make a really cool video to share with everybody. And so we started doing it. We started writing down our little ideas, and the first one that we decided to do is to talk about some of our experiences working with sellers, especially in the interview process, right? Because I'm not always working with somebody who's my BFF and they're going to hire me because they know they'll be in trouble if they don't, right? Sometimes I am competing against other realtors for the business, and there's a little interview process. So generally, what do you think? How often do you think you're interviewing, maybe even competing for a piece of business?
I like you. A lot of times I'm working with people that know me or were referred to me, but even if it was a referral, they still have questions. They still want to know who I am, how I do what I do, and how
Right.
I'm gonna really it's how am I going to help them? And so even if it's not a full on, interviewing for the position, if I'm already, kind of they still have these questions.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say, I'm probably interviewing maybe once out of 5 listing appointments. I'm being interviewed for the spot.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe 20.
Okay. Yeah, I think that sounds about, I think it's about right. Cool. All right. Well, one of the questions I get sometimes, so this is one thing. So whether you're like Jenalee said, where even if it's an automatic, you're there, you're going to list a property, they're not really interviewing you, they just got questions. Or let's say they are interviewing you, and they've got other appointments lined up, and you're one of any number of realtors that is going to meet with these people over the next, hopefully, short period of time, right? Maybe the next 48 hours. I'm always hopeful that the people have basically have questions written down, and then they have some sort of a grading system or scale system. I feel like saying, okay, well, if you're going to ask me these questions, this is what I'm going to help you. You need to have like a 1 to 5, 1 being no, and 5 being, I really liked their response. And then at the end, you could add up all the points. And if you've interviewed 4 realtors, the one that got 45 points and the next best was 35. Well, the guy that got 45 points, that's, because it's hard to keep all those answers and all that experience in your head.
Well, that's what I was going to say is once you get to Realtor 4, Realtors 1 and 2 are going to start to run together if you haven't written it down, right? Like
exactly.
You go to Wegmans and you forget what you're there for.
Oh my God.
This is a big deal. You're hiring somebody for a position that is an important job. So you want to make sure that you are writing it down and being able to remember exactly who is who.
Excellent. Exactly. So but along those lines of crafting the right questions.
Yep.
And all the appointments that we've been to, there's been questions that have been asked of us that we've thought, we're kind of telling you that you don't need to ask that question. We're kind of saying that's not that important.
Or correcting the question to give you the right question. It might be like a good idea, but we want to give you the right question to ask.
Right, because the question you're asking isn't going to get you the answer you want.
Yep.
Right? It's like the buyer that they say to their buyer's agent, "Hey, can you please ask the seller's agent why they're moving?" And and the seller's agent comes back to you and goes, well, they're moving because they want to live somewhere else, or they're moving because they're relocating, and they go, well, yeah, I know, but why are they moving? You go, I know they're and I say to them, listen, you don't really care why they're moving. The only thing you want to know is, are they moving because there's a major defect in this property, right? Is that why they're moving? Like that's really should be the only thing you care about, not why they're moving, but are they moving because right, of the house, right? And you're going to have a home inspection and you're going to discover anything like that, right? So again, not the right question to ask. You're really trying to discover something else. So as realtors, we dig deeper. So what about your license? Have you ever had anyone ask you, are you a licensed realtor? Can I see your license?
I've never had anybody ask me to see my license. I think,
Okay.
I guess, I don't know. That's sort of a silly question to me. I don't even know if that I'd have my license on me in the appointment. I mean, it's in my wallet, but maybe my wallet's out in the car. I mean, I could produce it if they wanted to see it, but I think if you see me online, you go to the Howard Hanna website, you see me up there, that I'm licensed when you see that there.
So I haven't. I haven't. This is one that I haven't had people ask me. However, I was showing land on my street, just on like a block down the street from me one time, and there was a gentleman who lived right next to it, and he was overseeing it for the owner, and the owner didn't let him know that he was going to be selling it. And so this guy stops his truck and wants to know what the heck I'm doing on the land. And I didn't even know that he had this relationship with the owner, that he was overseeing it. And then funny story, I said, well, I'm a realtor with Howard Hanna, blah, blah, blah. And, we're looking at the land, and he asked to see my license. So I pulled out my card, which has my picture on it. And here you go. And a week later, he bought the properties. So I sold it to him.
Nice.
and then funny, because the owner's like, then I had to go tell the owner that this guy who he already had a relationship was, buying the property. So anyway.
Well, that shows you why we have to carry them.
Right.
And we have them if we need them. But yes, I guess it can turn into some business.
It can, right? So we have a thing called days on market, right? And so sometimes a house, like the day on market, it could be less than a day, or it could be 100 days. But why does days on market matter, or how is that? Do people ask you do they judge us based on how long the property sits on the market?
So I think they do. And I think it's, in a market like we're in now, where days on market is going to be skewed, because a lot of people, right, are listing a house and then they're saying they're not going to accept any offers. They're not going to negotiate for 5 or 7 days. So that house that might have sold in 1 day, right, is now going to be on the market for 7. So you're sort of skewing it the wrong way. In a normal market, I think it's an important question, but I think it's got to be relative to a lot of other questions that go with it. So when I'm on a listing appointment, I do show people our stats. And again, they're sort of irrelevant now because everybody's selling, in a matter of days, it seems like. But, when I talk about our team statistics, I talk about what our average sale price is. So our average sale price is higher than the average agent. Okay, so our average sale price for our team is higher than the average agent with our board. Mm-hmm. So we're selling more expensive homes. The other stat that I look at is days on market. So we look at our days on market versus at the average agent days on market. And then we look at percentage list price to sale price, original list price to the final sale price. And what those 3 stats show you together is that we're listing more expensive homes faster. So you'd expect in a regular market for a more expensive home to take a little bit longer to sell. So we're actually saying we're selling more expensive homes, we're selling them faster, and we're selling them closer to asking price than the average agent. So those 3 stats together, I think, tell a good story, but I don't think just days on market, I don't think that's enough. I think there's more of a picture that you have to look at, right?
So, right. And the next level in that conversation is your list to sale price ratio, where you started to talk to that. We're selling closer to our list price. And I think depending on the house and the market, I think crazy, right? the average is over 100%,
Yes.
right? I believe that when the average sale price exceeds the list price, I believe that as listing agents, whoever's listing, they're not challenging the buying market enough. They're underpricing, under list pricing these homes. We should not, I don't believe we should ever be at a sale or list a sale price ratio exceeds 100%.
110%. Right.
Yep.
Right.
Shouldn't
Well,
happen.
yeah, that's an important thing to note. So when we talked about our statistics, we were talking 2016, 17, 18 stats. Now we don't really talk about those numbers because they're irrelevant. Because I think there's a lot of agents that their strategy or their business model is to underprice a home so that they can get that crazy over asking price number, and you know it's a strategy, and that's the seller's choice a lot of times is how they want to price it. But you're right, I think it does skew those numbers to make them, if you're underpricing a home, well then you better have 110% sale to list ratio, whereas if you're pricing things a little bit more accurately, then it might be a little lower, which isn't a bad thing.
Yeah. And two, a lot of right now that one of the issues we have is we kind of have like a clogged market in a way. We have
Yeah.
too many buyers and we don't have enough listings. This is a great time for an owner of a home to really, really test the market for their home. And if their house stays on the market for 30 or 35, 40 days and it doesn't go under contract, they probably don't have a house they're moving into, right? Like they're still looking.
Right.
So if it's going to take you probably 30 to 60 days to get under contract buying your next home, then I think it makes all the sense in the world to really challenge the market on your sale price and try to get as much money as
Reach for that.
possible.
Yeah, reach for that higher price.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, newsflash, we want to sell the house for as high as possible.
Right? Yeah, benefits you and it benefits us.
Right, benefits everybody. Okay, which is and it even and the buyers too. Like I know the buyers kind of feel sometimes like, well, I want to buy here, and I tell them, well, I know we want to buy here, but you're really, I mean, unless you're paying cash for a property, it affects your monthly payment. Your monthly payment's going to be a little higher, but you're also resetting the bar. So in 5 to 7 years, when you're moving on to the next property, you're going to be higher because you bought in this much higher. That 20 grand or whatever, it's
Right.
going to come back to you on the next side of it.
Yep.
So, okay, cool. Sometimes, do people talk to you about location? Like, where do you work? Have you sold my house? Do you sell in this neighborhood? What do you know? Like, how?
Yeah. So I get that question a lot. Where's your office located, or where do you sell? And I had it come that I have had somebody in a different county ask me, where's your office, and I tell them it's in Pittsford, and they want me to refer them to somebody, and I end up sitting down and talking with them, and in the end, they don't want me to refer them. But I think there's a misconception that you want a realtor that works in the office in the area that your house is in, when really, I mean, I don't know about you, Chuck, my office a lot of times is in the parking lot or on the street on four wheels. I mean,
Right.
I'm driving around in it, I'm doing a lot of work from my vehicle. We're always in different neighborhoods. We're showing buyers in all sorts of different neighborhoods. So it's likely that we have been in your neighborhood if it's in the Tri-County area, I'd say. Some of my favorite spots to be are out on Canisius Lake or Canandaigua Lake, and looking at and showing those properties. Who wouldn't love to be there? But and I don't, that's a 30-minute drive for me. So, but I'm there a lot. I like it there. I know the properties because I search relentlessly. So I think it's not a great question to ask, where's your office, or where do you live, or do you specialize in a neighborhood? I think we specialize in listing and selling houses, no matter where that house is located, right?
Right. I mean, especially my market, right? My county has 60,000 people. So I'm going to cover the whole county just because I have to for a viable business. And I love doing business in my county. And like you're on the east side of Rochester, I'm west of West, but I'll work west of West and West Rochester.
Yep.
I don't want to go to the east side. I'm gonna refer that business over to somebody who crushes it. Maybe somebody like you on the east side, right?
Yep.
I'm not. I don't. But I don't have to live in Oakfield
That's
or
right.
in Elba necessarily, because because as unique as those areas are, we get it, and there's enough data like to digest the data.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say is we all look at the same data in the
Right.
MLS. We all see the same information.
Right. So what about how long have you been a realtor? Did we talk about this at the very first question?
No, I think we talked about it offline though.
Oh, I think, okay. Yeah, I think you're right. I think it was one of our.
I do get that question. I've been a realtor for 12 years. But that's not a great question, right? Because
Yeah, no.
somebody who's, we talked earlier, somebody who's been a realtor for 20 years, maybe they sell 2 houses a year. So they've sold 40 houses. We're selling anywhere from 60 to 80 houses a year. So our experience isn't measured in years, it's measured in units. So you want to find out, as the seller, you want to find out how many houses is your listing agent selling, per year, over the course of time, whatever that looks like for you, as long as you're keeping it consistent from person to person. But maybe instead of how long have you been selling real estate, you want to ask the question, how many houses did you sell last year? Or sometimes I get the question of how many listings do you carry at a time? I think that's a good question because you want to make sure that the agent has some good experience and that they're carrying a number of listings, but also that they don't have too many, right? Like if it's one agent and they've got 30 listings, gosh, that's going to be hard to manage if it's one agent without any support staff or team members.
Right. Exactly. I get asked the age question a lot. I've gotten out of cars and the person come out the side garage door and first words out of their mouth are, "How old are you?" So that, and and oh God, how could I forgot how long have you been a realtor? And I would usually answer by saying, it feels like an eternity. And then they laugh, and frankly, they don't say, no, but seriously, how long? Like they laugh and we move on. It works pretty much every time.
Right. Well, and it's funny in my early days in my career, somebody would ask me how long or how old I was, and I was always, somewhat offended or, because I was young when I was 26 starting in the business. Now they ask me and I'm like, oh, you're so sweet. It's much more easy to swallow.
Right. And what about the full-time or part-time question? People ask you, well, do you have, is this your only thing? Like,
yeah, I think it's a good question. Well, it's an okay question. You want to know that somebody's going to be there for you when you need them to be. Full-time is funny. Like, what is full-time? 9 to 5, Monday to Friday? We wish, right?
Yeah, no, full-time. You mean full-time or full-time or full time? Or what does full-time mean?
Right.
Part-time. Do you mean that part of me is here in my office and part of me is at home, or part of me is over here? And is that what part-time? So yeah.
You just want to make sure that somebody's there. Like, for example, I've got an assistant. So if you can't reach me, you can probably reach her. So that when you need us, we are there for you. Or, I think that is really just somebody could be full-time and not real responsive, so I guess it's not a great thing just to know that somebody does this full-time. Right. That goes back to, that's maybe not the right question. how responsive are you? How sure are we that if we have a question, we're going to be able to get an answer timely, right?
I like to do a little setup like before an appointment. So, I've got an appointment scheduled out 3 or 4 days, and before that, send them something and say, and when, and before the appointment, I'm gonna send you this, and then do it. And I feel like that gets them in the mindset that you're gonna do the things that you say you're gonna do. I think it really just boils down to that.
Yeah.
Um, cool. Um, I had the most amazing, like I listed a property in Corf in my market here in Corfu in Genesee County, and the seller asked me the perfect question I've ever been asked at a listing appointment. It's not a bad question. This was a great question. He said, "Chuck, what are you going to do to market my home?" And I said, "Wow, direct and perfect." Like, frankly, that is the Cadillac of all questions that you need to ask your realtor when you're interviewing realtors, and then see what their answer is. And in my case, I opened up my laptop and we had our Hannah presentations, and I opened up my presentation and we went right into all of our differentiators, right? And an hour later, we moved into properties, comparables, figuring out the price. And I think he interviewed 5 realtors, and he decided to hire me. And so that's what, when you're interviewing a realtor, that's what you really want to get to is
Yeah.
not. And what about this question, Jenna? Do people say to you, "Well, what are you going to list my house for?"
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, what do we do when they ask that question?
So, we are your trusted experts in this journey, right?
Yeah.
You're turning the chapter here. You're doing something big in your life where you are changing where you live. So, it's the choice is not ours. The purchase price choice, that's not my choice. We are your trusted expert here. We're going to guide you through this. We're going to give you the data. We're going to give you our opinions. We're going to be your expert, your sounding board, sometimes your therapist. But really, at the end of the day, I tell all of my clients the pricing decision is yours. You're the one that's going to set the listing price. You're not going to set the sale price. That's the buyer's job, right? The buyer, the house is worth what someone's willing to pay for it. We're going to try to guess what that number is by setting a list price. We're going to help you with that. We're going to give you the numbers and the implications of those numbers. But at the end of the day, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, you are deciding on the price of your home.
Mm-hmm. So exactly, like they're in charge of the price, they're in charge of the terms and the condition. We're just in charge of the marketing. Okay. And I had somebody ask me, I guess I hadn't convinced them to hire me, and they wanted to know if I would the data about the properties and the guidance and all that. They wanted me to leave that with them, and I wouldn't leave it. I wouldn't leave that information. And I said, well, listen, how about I just come back tomorrow and we'll go through it again together tomorrow, and to me, that's a question again that doesn't really need to be asked. Can you leave all this?
Right.
How about, can we meet again? I'm just not sure. I need more time. I know you've got, maybe I have another listing appointment and I only have so much time for this, or maybe I have to be at my kid's soccer game and I have another commitment, I do this so that I can live a fulfilled life. I have other things. And those are just as important to me as all this real estate, right?
Yep.
So I say, hey, I'd love to come back. Let's talk more. If you're not convinced yet, let's talk more. That is, again, the getting into the question. Maybe when they say, can you leave this information, the question should pivot to, can you come back?
Yeah, or can we continue this conversation?
Right.
I fully appreciate that, because I am not someone who likes to be hard sold on something, right? Like if you sign today, you save an extra 10%, right? Like I hate those gimmicks.
Right. Or if you don't sign right, I'm out. If you got to sign with me now or I'm out.
Right.
You know.
For me, I like to process and digest, and I know I'll have more questions once I'm able to do that. And I just have to feel what those questions are. So I think that, I think you're right, Chuck. The question needs to be like, not, can you leave the information, but it's, can we continue the conversation?
Absolutely. Right. If you're not comfortable now, then let's just continue the time and it's going to be good. Let's take our time with this. This is a huge decision. It's so important.
Yeah.
And so let's make sure we're careful with it. Let's give it the time and everything that it needs.
Yep.
Awesome. All right. Well, I think, Jenalee, thanks for joining me this morning. This was a lot of fun.
This was great. And we hope that if you have other questions or, you're interviewing a realtor and you want to know, what questions should we ask? We hope that you'll comment, reach out to us, let us know. We can help guide you in that process if you need it. And if you're in the, Rochester and surrounding area, we hope that you'll interview us for that position.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you need to get in touch with Jenalee, you just take her name like it's on there on the bottom of the screen and add @howardhanna.com to the end of it. And with me, you'd have to change it to Charles Flynn @howardhanna.com. Same way to email either one of us. Yeah. So cool. All right. Well, listen, let's do this again. And I look forward to talking to you soon.
Excellent. Thanks, Chuck.
All right. See you, Jenalee. Cheers. Bye-bye.